Vanakkam, good evening, good afternoon, good morning across the globe to all the viewers who have come today to listen to this fantastic talk. I call upon Professor Arasu Chellaya to give us the welcome speech.
Vanakkam. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome all of you for today's talk by Dr. Nazir Sakir Brahwi. This is a special talk. First time we are talking about Brahwi language. This study group is all about continuous learning. I am reminded of Mahatma Gandhi's quote: "Live as if you are going to die tomorrow. Learn as if you are going to live forever." So this study group is all about learning, uh, group learning synergistically. This group was formed as soon as the Journey of a Civilization Indus Vaihe book published. We studied the book, and then that book more directed us to different areas: archaeology, history, genetics, linguistics, languages, and so many other areas. So we thought we can go deeper in each one, and we moved on to study Early Indians by Tony Joseph book, and then Father Tongue and Motherland by Peggy Mohan book. That we will divide the book into several parts and presented each part by one of us uh, over several weeks. In addition to learning from books, we also conduct special talks by inviting specialists. For example, we invited Professor Raj Muttarasan to give a talk on genetics and the effect on migration. So, recent advances, we can analyze the human migration in a new light. It's a continuously evolving field. So, on that effect, we have invited Dr. Nazir Brahi and Nazir Zakir Brahi, and we will definitely learn new aspects. Many of us know Brahi is a Dravidian language, and it has connection to Tamil language and Indus Valley civilization. And we are going to listen to him and know more deeply. I welcome you all once again to not only this talk, continuously become a member of JOC group, Journey of Civilization group, and join with us. Thank you. Vanakkam.
Thank you, Professor Chellaya. As he aptly mentioned, this entire group started with this book, Journey of a Civilization. And the journey is actually continuing with a lot of speed and momentum gained in its way, especially with speakers and specialists in this field who come to offer their knowledge. So at this point, it is an esteemed honor to introduce our speaker, Dr. Nazir Shakir Brakhwi, an expert in lexicography and archaeology. His extensive work spans across history, anthropology, and linguistics. Dr. Nazir Shakir Brakhwi is the director of the Brakhwi Research Institute in Pakistan. He holds an MPhil degree in linguistics from the Shah Abdul Latif University. His academic pursuits, spanning across history, anthropology, and linguistics, has helped him uncover the roots of regional languages. In recognition of his monumental contributions towards Brakhwi race, geography, and lexicon, he was awarded an honorary doctorate by the Brakhwi National Conference. As a leading authority in this field, he has expanded his scope to include comparative studies of Indo European and Semitic language families. He is a prolific writer who has published research articles in over 17 prestigious journals and in newspapers like the Daily Mehran, authored the book Brakhwi Va Baluch. Translated in English, the title says Brakhwi and Baluch. He serves as a life member of the Dravidian Linguistic Association in India, thus reinforcing the historical and linguistic ties that connect Indus Valley across modern borders. He is also involved in the Brahuis in Iran project as its language advisor. This initiative is conducted in partnership with UNICEF and the University of Tehran. He is a member of the Brahui Orthographic Committee, who judges for major national literary awards, and is currently authoring 7 new books, including a comprehensive basic dictionary, the Brahui Zuban Ki Bunyadi Lugat, which translates to Basic Brahui Dictionary, that unites Brahui with Sindhi, Urdu, and to the broader Dravidian family. At this point, I invite Dr. Raj Muttarasan, a fellow member in our study group, who has an extensive knowledge and is always searching parallels and connections to understanding the Dravidian language family, to say a few personal notes on our speaker, Dr. Nazir Shakir Brahui.
As Subhadra Madam described, Dr. Nazir Ahmad Brahui is a preeminent authority on the Brahui language, its history, and its cultural evolution. As a dedicated scholar and native advocate, his research serves as a vital bridge between traditional heritage and modern academic inquiry. His expertise has made him a key collaborator for international linguists, including Professor David McAlpin, some of you may be aware of him, whose Alamo-Dravidian hypothesis relies on Brahui as a pivotal linguistic link to the ancient Zagros Mountains. His hypothesis, by the way, is not accepted by mainstream linguists, but it is still there, bubbling, acquiring greater amount of evidence, as Dr. Brahui himself will note in his talk. He has also engaged with Professor Peggy Mohan, contributing localized insights into the historical migrations and language contexts that shape the Indian subcontinent. If you have read her book, you'll notice she recognizes Dr. Brahui's contribution to some of the interpretations of the Brahui language and features of Northern Dravidian languages in her book. Dr. Brahui remains an essential voice in preserving and interpreting the legacy of the Northern Dravidian frontier. Many scholars view the Brahui language as a residue of the Indus Valley civilization of the 3rd millennium BCE, following migration further south and east. Recent ancient DNA data since 2017 increasingly supports these migration patterns and the corresponding linguistic connections. In this regard, Professor Franklin Southworth of University of Pennsylvania's work provides another critical pillar on the Alamo-Dravidian hypothesis, for which Brahui language serves as a vital connector. And so listening to his talk today is going to be critically important for us to understand these various linkages of ancient times. Now let us learn more about it directly from the esteemed scholar, Dr. Brahui himself. Now let me hand this over to Subhadra ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raj Muttarasan. That was very beautifully, concisely said. Thank you. So whether he is presenting at international conferences in Quetta or lecturing for the International School of Dravidian Linguistics, Dr. Brahui brings a wealth of field-tested knowledge and a passion for preserving linguistic heritage. Let us all join together in welcoming a true guardian of the Brahui language, Dr. Nazir Shakir Brahui. And before we start the talk, a few housekeeping rules. Please mute your Zoom screens, and please also keep your phones in silence. And most importantly, as you pay attention to the talk, Whatever questions come to your mind, please send it as a text, because only these questions are going to be answered at the end of the session. We are not going to call for live participants to come up with questions, but only questions that are messaged will be answered at the end of the session.
The
Thank you
question
so much.
on the put on the chat, isn't it?
Yes, in the chat. Please message on the chat. Thank you so much. And let's all listen to this enlightening talk.
First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the Brahui Research Institute of Pakistan and the Brahui speaking nation to the respect and honorable members of the GOC Circular Study Group. Today is an occasion of great enthusiasm and joy. Tomorrow, April 5th, Brahui Culture Day will be celebrated across the world. On this day, Brahui people wear their national dress and organize programs of literature and music. In different cities, Brahui scholars deliver speeches to highlight the history, culture, and linguistic status and importance of the Brahui language. On this occasion, I extend my advance congratulations to all the scholars present here. I am especially grateful to Madam Bama MM, Raja Muthurasan, and others who honored me and encouraged me to undertake a comprehensive study of the languages of an important linguistic family from every possible perspective. My written lecture actually consisted of about 50 pages, but I had to surrender to Madam Bama's directive and condense it as she has allotted only 1 hour. Even so, I remain thankful. As has been the case until today, the origin of Brahui, its presence in the Indus Valley Civilization, and its existence in a peninsular like from early 2000 kilometers away remain significant challenges. During this time, many people, driven by political interest, have not only neglected the importance of the Brahui language, but have also misrepresented its historical, linguistic, cultural, and geographical position by labeling Brahui speaker as Baloch. Brahui has not only a deep linguistic relationship with Tamil, but also profound historical, cultural, and onomastic connections. Here I will briefly discuss the relationships within the context of time. The title of my lecture is A Study of Brahui and Tamil in the context of their presence in the IVC. First of all, Tamil. Tamil is an important literary language of the most ancient languages of the world. In the present age, the number of its speakers is approximately more than 90 million. This language is spoken in Canada, the United States, Australia, Singapore, Mauritius, Malaysia, the South Africa, and other countries. Tamil language has been recognized as an official language in Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka, and Pondicherry. Tamil language is enlisted in 22 official languages of India. Tamil is spoken 5.89 in India, while 1.1 million in the world. Brahui language is mostly spoken in Pakistan, Balochistan. In addition to this, it is spoken in the Sindh province of Pakistan and several other countries, whereas Afghanistan, Iran, Turkmenistan, and other Middle East and Europe. The official figure shows that 3 million Brahui speaking live in Pakistan. While according to unofficial survey, the MAG total number of Brahui speakers more than 10 million all over the world. Brahui speaking people comprises of 37 tribes, and every tribe has its own chiefs. All chiefs and tribes of Brahui are divided in geographical areas. One part is called Saravan, which is stretched from Punjab's borders Mukachar and in south from Jekmabad's border to Noshke. The chiefs of the different tribes of different nationalities of all the part, which include Brahwi, Pashtun, Baloch, Sindhi, Jat, Dewar, Hazara, and others, is called Chief of Saravan, who is the chief of Raisani, a tribe of Brahwi. The other area is called Jhalawan, which stretches from West Kala to Hub and in north from Iranian border to the district Dadu in Sindh. The chief of various tribes of this entire area is called Chief of Jhalawan, who is the chief of Zahri tribe of Birawi. The chief of these two chiefs comes from Birawi or is from Birawi, whose city of rule is Kalat. Usually the Birawi state or rule is called and written Paya Takht Kalat, Kalat the city of rule. Third, it is the Birawi rule, Kalat is its capital city, Karachi, Jhalawan, Kachi, Jhalawan, Sarawan, Makulan, Lasbel, Haran were its provinces. The Birawi rule lasted from 1410 AD to 1958 AD, total 5,548 years. This was the longest term rule of Birawi or Tamil in Pakistan. Ernestum wrote Birawi grammar in German in 1880 AD. He in this book clearly declared Birawi language as Dravidian language. In 1962, M.B. Aminu, after modern linguistic study of Birawi language, declared it as branch of North Dravidian group. But in 2022 AD, David McAlpin declared Birawi language as modern colloquial Eastern Elamite. In the same way, McAlpin declared Dravidian languages as a cognate of Elamite language. This is the McAlpin map. Who were the creators of the IVC, Birawi, Tamil, or both? Sir John Marshall conducted excavation at Mohenjo-daro from 1921 1923. He wrote a research book on these excavations, in which he described the civilization as non-Aryan and identified its people and languages as Dravidian. In this way, he pointed toward recognizing the Birawi language spoken in Indus Valley civilization as belonging to the creators of this civilization and its speakers. After that, G.R. Hunter presented his detailed research on the script of Indus Valley civilization, in which he clearly stated that the people and language of the IVC could be none other than the ancestors of the Birawi. In the same period, Perubirigi also explicitly stated that the people of the IVC were Proto-Birawi. Richard and Frey likewise described the people and language of the IVC as Proto-Birawi and said that these people were the majority in Sindh and present-day Balochistan before the arrival of the Aryans. Sharma and Parpola jointly wrote a book in which they clearly stated that Sharma and Parpola concluded that Birawi was the first language of the Harappans. In this linguistic context, Gerson, Andronov, Zolebel, Subramaniam, Suresh Kolichala, and several other linguists have stated that the Dravidian language originated from Proto-Dravidian and have identified Birawi as branch that spread directly from Proto-Dravidian. According to modern research, Krishnamurti's work on the linguistic classification of Dravidian languages is currently widely accepted, and there is broad agreement on it. This includes Suresh Kolichala. Suresh Kolichala, while discussing the classification of modern Dravidian languages, writes the first branch of spirit of is North Dravidian, which further split into South Dravidian 1, and South Central Dravidian, South Dravidian number 2. However, the underscript expert Parpola had expressed a similar idea earlier in 1994. He writes, the Brahvis, the first group that broke off from the mainstream of the Dravidian languages. The remaining Dravidian languages are considered to have separated from Proto-Dravidian after Brahvi and to have undergone their own independent linguistic development and classification. This is a G.R. Grierson map. Thus, according to this line of research, if any Proto-Dravidian language was spoken in the Indus Valley civilization, it was Brahvi. The languages that their spirit of from it are moved forward toward north can be regarded as its daughter languages. These other Dravidian languages descended from Brahvi, underwent linguistic, cultural, environmental, and regional changes over time and evolved into distinct languages. Today, there is a geographical distance of about 2,000, 3,000 kilometers between Brahvi and these languages. Therefore, a significant linguistic divergence, around 70%, is observed between them. In contrast to the antiquity of the Brahvi language in the Indus Valley civilization, Suniti Kumar, Father Hiras, Iravatham Mahadevan, and dozens of other Dravidians have identified the language of the IVC not as Proto-Brahvi but as Proto-Dravidian. Proto-Dravidian is considered the mother of all modern languages. Of the Brahvi people in present-day Balochistan, another hypothesis exists proposed by Joseph Albine. According to this view, the ancestors of the present-day Brahvi entered Balochistan during the 9th century from central India, specifically Rajasthan, Gujarat, and settled in Sindh and the areas of Kalat and Khuzdar. This is a Joseph Albine's map. Elfenbein devoted much of his life's work to supporting and strengthening this hypothesis through linguistic, historical issues, and tribal evidence. Many later specialists have used his hypothesis as a reference, and on this basis, he to the Indus Valley civilization. In order to refute Elfenbein's hypothesis about the Brahvi people and to present a critical analysis of it, we put forward the following points. Number one, Krishnamurti also expressed many doubts in accepting his hypothesis. He writes, but he does not give linguistic arguments. Note Parpola and James Erickson have also stated this hypothesis. Ferdinand considered the Orang people to have been settled in present-day India rather than in present-day Sindh and Balochistan. Number four, Iravatham Mahadevan also rejected the hypothesis on Thomasborough and other. He states that now we also know that before the Aryan advent into the subcontinent, the Dravidians lived in the north and northwest parts of country. We have the Brahvi, which is still spoken in Balochistan and parts of Iran and nearby areas. It is Dravidian language. Of course, there has been a suggestion that the Brahvi could have migrated from south of Peninsula in later historical times, but experts discount this possibility because it is found by Bureau Emenu and others that Brahvi is part of native of languages, which still survives in pockets like Kurf and Malto, the northeast part of India. Therefore, the chances are that the ancestors of the Brahvi lived there during the Harappan civilization. Number 5, Munda people had settled in various regions of the present day Indus Valley civilization during the Dravidian period before the arrival of the Aryans. They exerted a strong linguistic influence on the local populations and their languages. Hor means man, while Horko means man. This plural marker ko is still in Brahui in the Fram K. For instance, Mar means boy and Max form the plural boys. The sentence structure of these languages like Brahui and Dravidian languages follows a subject, object, verb order. The languages generally lack grammatical gender in Brahui as well as in some Dravidian languages. A gender system is also absent. For example, Kolpar, which is situated right at the entrance of route leading from Bolan Pass toward Koita. An ancient temple of Kali Mata still exists there, where devotees come every year from distant area, including India. This town was established by the Kol people about 2,500 years ago. Similarly, another town is known as Mandai, which was founded by people of the Manda tribe and still exists today. Many Kali names among Brahui-speaking tribes are also attributed to the names of different Munda tribes, the detail of which are as follows. Mandozai, Kalandarani, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Mandozai, Ertazai, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Chuhadzai, Banguzai, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Bangizai, Kurd, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Mandozai Resani, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Mandozai Shamani, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Mandozai Zagar Mengal, a clan of the Brahui tribe. Bagadzai Basunjo, a clan of the Brahui tribe, and others. Many words from the Manda languages are still in use in Brahui, indicates that there was a strong connection between the Manda and people and the local Brahui-speaking populations. The claim by Elphinstone that the Brahuis migrated from India to present-day Balochistan in the 9th, 10th century BC is not correct. Number 6. Did the Brahuis migrated from India due to any political, social, religious, agriculture, epidemic, or civil war-related reasons? If they migrated, did all the Brahuis move to present-day Balochistan, leaving none behind? If some remained, where are they now? Under what the name? And which language do they speak? Do historical records, traditions, or chronicles from those regions mention the migration of the Brahuis? Number 7. About 2,350 years before the 9th, 10th century, proposed by Joseph Albine, Alexander the Great passed to Balochistan via the Mula Pass. In this pass, he encountered a tribe called the Langla, which today is known as the Langav, a permanent tribe of the Brahui people. Number 8. Strabo wrote his book on geography in which he mentioned about 2,100 years ago a tribe identified with the present-day Brahui Sarpara tribe under the name Sarpara. He explained the meaning of this name as a Thracian tribe, which name was probably derived from their custom of decapitating strangers. Today, this tribe not only speaks Brahui, but it is considered one of the important Brahui tribes. Number 9. Certain people who were of Iran origin conquered present-day Balochistan and Sindh and ruled there for approximately 250 years. When they became weak, about 2,100 years ago, they were absorbed into Brahui-speaking population and permanently became Brahui. Today, the Sajidi and Satakzai tribes of the Brahui are said to be the same Saka people. Number 10. One of the prominent Brahvi tribe is a Mengal. The name of this tribe is of Proto-Dravidian origin. And this name, men, comes from the Dravidian word men, fish, and Gal is originally derived from al, meaning person or man. In Brahvi, this Tamil al has politically changed into ar, meaning man. Though the combination of these elements, the compound word mineral evolved into Mengal, meaning fisherman. Number 11. Before the Arab ruler in present-day Balochistan and Sindh, the right entity was in power. On their behalf, a governor named Seva was appointed over the Brahvi regions of present-day Kalat and its surroundings. These Seva were originally Jats and their language was Jatki. When the rule of these Sevas was overthrown by Chach of Alur, the Seva ruler family merged into the Brahvi tribe known as Mamashai, which corresponds to the present-day Mamashai subgroup of the Khadrani clan, and they permanently became Brahvi. Number 12. Joseph Albine identified 27 tribes of the Brahvi nation, which is not correct. In fact, the Brahvi consists of 37 tribes. Number 13. Elfenbein wrote that there are no Avestan words in the Brahvi language. Therefore, the Brahvi are not ancient inhabitants of this region, and they migrated from central India to present-day Balochistan during the 9th and 10th century. This claim is also unsupported and illogical, while he easily finds hundreds of linguistic influences in Brahvi from Baluchi, Persian, and Saraiki. He does not recognize Avestan influences. Here we present some Avestan words that are used in Brahvi as linguistic evidence. Noska means dusk, means English thread. Hok, hukam means pig. Rana, razan means thig. Tiger, takra, sharp, fast moving. Khwas, khwant, khwa. Thors means third, to cut. Number 14. Elfenbein also writes that the word Brahvi is transferred from the Ibrahim entered as Brahvi. In reality, this is a non-linguistic, non-historical and illogical assumption. If the Brahvi were named after the word Brahvi, then it would imply that they originally belonged to the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur. The time of Prophet Abraham dates back to around 15 or 2000 BC. This would mean that the Brahvi also belonged to that period and would have spoke in a Semitic Akkadian language. This raises the question, when and why did these people travel approximately 4,500 kilometers to settle in central India, and how did they abandon their Semitic language and adopt a Dravidian one? Furthermore, if the Brahvi later migrated from central India to Balochistan, they would most likely have been followers of Hinduism. Since Muslims were only a small minority, around 10 to 15 percentage in central India at that time. So how, where, and under whose influence did they convert to Islam? If in central India a particular tribe or clan among the present-day Brahvi had the name Ibrahim, and from this they became known as Brahmi, then the name should have remained specific to that particular tribe or clan. However, here the name Brahvi is used collectively for all 37 tribes as both a nation, ethnic, and linguistic identity. The suffix k in the word Brahviki is not from the Saraiki language, rather it is of Dravidian origin. Even today, among many Dravidian-speaking tribes, the suffix k is commonly used with the names of deities and sacred figures, such as Komaki, Mandaki, Ponaki. It is also important to note that Brahui speakers refer to themselves as Brahui or Brahui, but they never call themselves Brohi, nor do they write it as such. The term Brohi has always been used by non-Brahui for the Brahui people. When the Arabs entered the Brahui region in the 7th century, they encountered Brahui-speaking populations. The pronunciation of Brahui was somewhat difficult for Arabic speakers, so they adapted it according to the phonetic features of Arabic and rendered it as Belohi. Their geographer Ibn Hawkal used the term Belohi in his book around 1200. In fact, the original word is Brahui, which is derived from Vada means north, Ko means mountain, and the suffix E indicating relation from the combination of these two words. The compound word Vadakui was formed meaning northern or the northern mountaineers. This is the abundant historical, textual, linguistic, and cultural evidence to reject Elfenbein's hypothesis. In fact, the underlying purpose of promoting this theory was to create a contradiction regarding the presence of the Brahui in the Indus civilization and to portray them as contemporaries of the Baloch, thereby labeling them as Baloch. Since the 1960s, new research has emerged in the field of Dravidian linguistics, especially concerning the linguistic and ethnic origins of the Tamils. One key idea is that the word Tamil is the original form and that Dravida is a later phonetic transformation of it. According to this view, the Tamil language developed from Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil. It is also argued that Tamil-speaking people did not migrate from the Indus Valley civilization to settle in present-day Tamil Nadu. Rather, they are the original inhabitants of ancient Lemuria, Kanyakumari, or the Tamil Nadu region itself. Furthermore, some scholars propose that Tamils are linguistically, ethnically, and culturally of African origin, having migrated from Africa to the India subcontinent around 180 years ago. The first formal academic attempt to describe Tamils as African was made by B.B. Lal. Based on archaeological and genetic consideration, he associated Tamils with the Sikh group Nubian subsequently. Scholars such as K.P. Ravan, Clyde Winters, Bala Krishnan, Tony Joseph, and Raj Muthugasan, among others, have contributed to this hypothesis through linguistic, historical, genetic, archaeological, and toponymic studies. This is a significant linguistic similarity between Brahui and African languages. Some examples of this are presented. Number A, African and Old Tamil each have vowels in Brahui Kamzolable, also identified 10 vowels. The vowel chart of these three languages is presented as follows. Pronouns. In Dravidian, ane, nai, ne means I, Manding na, Brahui mein e. Number C, absence of initial cluster of consonant. Number D, absence of degrees of comparison for adjectives and adverbs as a distinct morphological categories. Number E, use of reduplication for examples. Number F, glossary. Dog. Bambaru language, Ulu, Kayahu, Vulu, Malinki, Vulu, Valu, Dravidian, Oru, and Brahui, Ulaying, a dog so long and fattening sound at night lasting about 10 or 15 seconds, which is not related to barking. Cow, kettle, Hausa, language, Nage, Seriri, Nak, Songe, Doengu, Brahui, Dhag. Sheep, Ram, Manding, Kori, Gori, Tamil, Kuri, Karami, Mari, and Brahui, Kur means Felak. Het, or Ghat. These AIC group were early hunter-gatherers who lived in small human communities after inhabiting mountain caves. They created cave bindings and engraving in the mountains regions of their respective areas. Their time period belongs to the Paleolithic area, which spans roughly from 2.5 million years ago to about 15,000 to 10,000. The engravings and cave paintings produced by these Asi population in India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran are described. These archaeological sites of human civilization were settlements established by Proto-Dravidian peoples. Experts from various fields have identified these remains as belonging to the period of the Indus Valley Civilization. Currently, the area of the IVC is estimated to be about 1.25 to 1.3 million square kilometers. However, in light of these newly discovered sites, the estimate appears too small. Considering the archaeological evidence spread across different countries, the area of the IVC exceeds 3 million square kilometers. This is a new IVC area map. However, an important question arises here. Was only Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil spoken across this vast cultural region? Based on these archaeological findings and the Proto-Dravidian linguistic framework, we can say that the people of these civilizations spoke different varieties of Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil in their respective regions. For example, Proto-Tamil in Tamil Nadu, Proto-Gondi in Madhya Pradesh, Proto-Malayalam in Kerala, Proto-Kannada in Karnataka, Proto-Brahmi in Balochistan, Proto-Elamite in the Khuzestan region of present-day Iran. The Elamite language, which was spoken during the Achaemenid Empire, disappeared between 200 or 300 BC. It was also an important variety of Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil, as its linguistic connections are found only with Dravidian languages and Brahmi. We can confidently say that the Proto-Elamite was in fact a variety of Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil. When the needs of life increased for the Proto-Brahmi people in the Brahmi mountain ranges, they established an important foundation of agriculture, religious, commercial, medical, pastoral, and settled life around 7000 BC at the entrance of the Bolan Pass and the end of the Kachi Plains. This civilization is now known as Mehrgarh. Later, around 500, these Proto-Brahmi people expanded further and established new urban centers in key regions of present-day Balochistan and Sindh. Among these, the city of Mohenjo-daro is particularly well known. This evident civilization represents a peak period of human development. The people of this civilization established trade relations with various regions and created colonies abroad to promote writing, reading, trade, religion, and education. They developed a script which still remains undeciphered. However, the inscriptions or graffiti symbols of this script are considered by experts to be Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil script. When the Aryans entered the IVC region around 1500, the Dravidian-speaking populations of this region dispersed to different areas. Among them, the ancestors of the present-day Brahmi settled in the northern mountainous regions, while others moved toward central, northern, and southern India. It should be noted that this migration was the second and relatively limited movement of the Dravidians. However, many linguists generally consider this to be the first migration, which is not correct. Some populations in Mohenjo-daro and its surroundings area managed to preserve their identity, including the present-day Brahvi and various Dravidian tribes in Pakistan. The names of their tribes and castes are of Dravidian origin. The remaining Dravidian assimilated into the Aryans and adopted Aryan language and culture. In contrast, the Brahvi left the plains and agriculture regions and made the mountains their primary habitats. As a result their culture changed and their script eventually disappeared since such a writing system was not practical in mountainous environmental. Nevertheless, they preserved elements of their ancient Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Brahvi script in the form of symbols and graffiti engraved on rocks. These marking style be found today in various parts of the Brahvi region. Modern Dravidian languages and Dravidists are conducting research in contemporary Dravidian languages from geographical, toponomic, genetic, cultural, and linguistic perspectives. All scholars agree that the modern Dravidian languages originate from Proto-Dravidian. They classify Proto-Dravidian in four linguistic branches: North Dravidian, Central Dravidian, South Central Dravidian 2, and South Dravidian 1. However, this classification of linguistic branches has been made in the context of the modern linguistic framework. In contrast, before the arrival of the Aryans, the industrial civilization, especially major metropolitan centers such as Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Rakhigali, and other cities, was home to speakers of various Dravidian languages, as well as people from Sumerian, Akkadian, Turkic, and other backgrounds. Due to this interaction, there was significant linguistic influence among these groups, particularly in terms of area linguistics. Dravidian languages that were geographically closer to each other show greater linguistic similarities. For example, Brahvi, Kurhamaltu, and Gondi. These similarities date back to the pre-Aryan period. However, the earlier stage, when Proto-Dravidian itself had already diversified into different varieties, belonged to a much older period, when all Dravidian speakers originally shared a single language. Even today, Brahvi retains linguistic features of Proto-Dravidian. When Brahvi separated from Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil ancient times, it maintained strong linguistic, historical, cultural, and toponymic connections with Tamil, although Tamil belongs to the South Dravidian one branch and is located approximately 3,500 kilometers away. Significant similarities still exist between the two languages. After the IBC period, there was no direct contact between Brahvi and Dravidian and Tamil. Yet these similarities persist. They suggested that, as proposed, Garrison Brahvi separated directly from Proto-Dravidian. The hypothesis that Brahvi belongs to the North Dravidian branch has already been questioned by McAlpin,
Yeah,
who
one
raised
quick time
linguistic.
check. Yeah, we have 10 more minutes. So maybe you emphasize on the other topics also. Swarna, can you please
Yeah.
translate?
सर अभी 10 मिनट और बाकी हैं, तो आप अगर इसके बारे में, आई थिंक आप वो तमिल एसोसिएशन इन कल्चर इसके बाद आ रहे हैं ना, तो उसमें आप थोड़ा जल्दी देख लेंगे तो अच्छा होगा। और 28
बस
पे
मैं अब ये कि लसानियात पे मैं बात नहीं करूंगा, मैं कल्चर पे और जो कबीलाई नाम है तामिलों के उसी हवाले से बात करूंगा, क्योंकि लसानियात का अगर हो टाइम मिला तो फिर उस पर लसानियात पे अलग मैं बात करूंगा।
जी हाँ, क्योंकि यहाँ लोग मोस्टली वो तमिल कनेक्शन के लिए भी सुनना चाहते हैं, तो अगर आप उसको
Many
टच कर
questions.
सकते हो
हाँ,
तो हाँ 10
चलो
मिनट में।
ठीक है, चलो ठीक है।
थैंक यू सर।
In light of mater-linguistic culture, genetic and toponymic research and Dravidian languages, the Brahmi language was a variety of Proto-Dravidian or Proto-Tamil. It first became known in the Zagros region of Khuzestan under the name Elamite. Later, a large majority of these people migrated and eventually settled in the mountain regions of present-day Balochistan. The toponymical study of mountains of Brahmi area, cities, and tribes. About the origin and meaning of word Brahmi, the local political writers with Balochi mentality have created many stories and tales regarding creating political harmony. They all intended to declare the word Brahmi of Indo-Iran origin, because Baloch too are Indo-Iran linguistically and culturally. But according to the modern research, the word Brahmi is Proto-Dravidian. There is an area named Nadi, is district Kachi area, which means area. This word is a phonetic change of Tamil word Natu, which means country, district, province, locality, earth, land. The famous city Sibi of Balochistan became famous after the name of Sembia, the ancient people Tamil ruler Cholan. There is a caste named Mullazai of eminent tribe Mengal of Brahmi, which is the origin of Tamil word. The science of Perak exists near Nadi Canal and 120 kilometers away from Sibi. The word is the phonetic change of Tamil word is para, parasu, param, parami, paramai. In Tamil, this word means that which is old, a very aged person, oldness. Association and culture. Tamil culture is a culture of mountain, plain, and water combined. In Brahmi people like Tamil, these three civilization features are seen. Now, Brahmi culture is only mountaineers who used to live in tents and keep goats, sheep, and bulls. The Palimas area of wood and mountains of Zari, there are cave paintings of bull representing land civilization. This animal is important in the Brahmi culture. The animal is used for agricultural trade, journey, and sacrifice. They hunted fish, knew how to read and write, skilled in agriculture. And Proto-Tamil rice is called Arsi Eri, which exists in Brahmi in Sari farm. In the same way, in Brahmi language, Khad means ditch, Talab means pound, and other words are of Tamil. In IBC, usually Brahmi script was being used even today. The marks of IBC script are found carved on the mountains of Balochistan and Sindh. The Proto-Dravidians who went to South India, they continue using that script. Now, Hindu religious scholars and linguistics have attributed Brahmi script to Brahma deity. According to Hindu cosmology, Brahma is the creator deity. Brahma was a permanent god between the 2nd century to 6th century, after which his active worship declined, largely replaced by Vaishnavism and Shaivism. Actually, Brahma was the deity of Aryans, and Brahmi script had been used in IBC thousands of years ago. Actually, Brahmi is a phonetic change of word Brahmi. In Tamil literature, the black color is like every much. Greek poetry and proverbs regarding it are seen about it, as beauty lies in blackness. Quite in the same way, in Brahmi literature, the black color is liked very much. In Brahmi language, about the black color are the lover feels proud of his sweetheart being black. For example, the poem Sozo of Brahmi language read this stanza. Sozo o Sozo means black o black. Sozo kana soze black is mine. Dut it is the khoprai. In delicate hand there is a khopra, coconut oil. There are caving pens in Pallimaus Mountains of Birahui mountain range of district Khuzdar. They show group of human beings dancing in a circle. The marker of it was Proto Birahui. The dancing people made these cave paintings to preserve and express the most important event of their life. In Birahui language, the dance is called chap, which of Tamil origin. In Tamil, the word for dance are used as chapani, chapat, meaning clapping hands. The same word in Birahui is see in the form of Tamil word chap, and meaning hand clapping is used. In the neighbor languages of the Birahui, Sabat, Chap is Balochi, Naka in Pashto, Rakshid in Persian, Jhamir or Tadi in Sindhi, and Raks in Urdu are used. Balochis and Indo-Aryan languages, they have loaned the Chap word from Birahui. Every person, whether old, young, man, woman, boy, or girl, can chop. This is not considered bad thing, but this chop is done happily on happy occasions. There is another word for dance, for example, nach. This word is of Tamil origin as well. In Tamil, natta, nataki, natu, natati, natati, natapu, words are used for it. The meaning for these words is to walk, go, pass, proceed, happen, going, and words are used for it. The meaning of these words are happening, going, and words are used for it. The Birahui word nach is phonetic change of these words. In Birahui, the foot is called nat, with worship, help, whose help man walked around. In Tamil, it is used in the same meaning. Tamil and Birahui, both words about dance are incognate. The Tamil or Birahui word is used in almost all Indo-Aryan and Indo-Iranian languages of Indo-Pak under their linguistic influence. The cave paintings of dance in Pallimaus Mountains of district Khuzdar shows that the makers of it were Proto-Birahui or Tamils. Linguistic पे मैं आया हूँ तो टाइम भी थोड़ा है.
Maybe
अगर
we can
कहें
skip
तो
this. Yeah.
हाँ सर, अभी ये आप स्किप कर सकते हो. लिंग्विस्टिक में अभी आई थिंक टाइम नहीं होगा.
बस आगे नहीं पढ़ूं, बस यहीं बस करूं ना.
இதோட முடிச்சிடலாம் கேக்குறாங்க. இல்ல இன்னும் பேச
कंक्लूड பண்ண சொல்லுங்க.
ओके. हाँ हाँ सर, आप यहाँ आप खत्म कर दीजिएगा. अभी अभी और क्वेश्चंस भी हैं. क्वेश्चन आंसर्स बहुत लोगों ने पूछा है, तो उसके बाद अगर चाहिए तो हम उसके बाद कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं सर. ठीक है ना?
चलो ठीक है, चलो ठीक है, चलो ठीक है. अब आप क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं मुझसे.
थैंक यू.
अच्छा, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर. थैंक यू सर. So I think he has concluded his session. Yeah, we could go for a Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Nazir. It was a very, very enlightening talk. And this probably is a eureka moment for all of us listening to you. You have actually explained and shown us the different dimensions that we need to explore in learning and understanding the Dravidian family of languages. Thank you so much. And to all the viewers, we have actually cut short his talk that was spread over like 50 pages because he's a master at it, but we have restrictions in time and also our capacity to understand. This is not going to be the first time we are going to call Dr. Nazir. There are going to be many opportunities when we are going to have him in our presence to explain and elucidate us in this language that is forming the main pivotal point of the Dravidian family of languages. So thank you all for understanding. We will now go to the question and answer session. And this is going to be moderated.
One correction, we have Dr. Suresh as well as Professor Anvita here. So we wanted to.
Shall we do that after the questions, Bama? The reason is people can.
Let's have before the question and answer. So that...
Okay. So yes, this was a very, very important thing too, that we have two very important linguists amongst us in the viewers, Dr. Suresh Kolichala and Dr. Anvita Abbey. We would want both of them to express and do their inputs on the talk in a very brief 2-minute session. First, I will call upon Dr. Suresh Kolichala, followed by Dr. Anvita Abbey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Nazir Raya, thanks a lot. I think we have heard him. I have heard him earlier also, but I think there are always he comes up with some new surprises that I did not know. So I think his greatest strength lies in his use of systematic comparative linguistics, just demonstrating that Brahui is just not merely one of those non-literary languages in Dravidian languages, but is a core member of the family, and that's very important for us to look deeply into it, not just the literary languages that we tend to focus on, Tamil, Kannada, and Telugu. So I think so while the linguistic data connecting Brahui to the Dravidian family is remarkably strong, it has already been established for more than 150 years. The paper's attempt to rewrite some of the prehistoric map of the Northwest. I think some of them are bold, I would say, and like the Munda connections or the African connections, they require critical scrutiny. But I think I think there is a established. Somewhat established theory that which is floated by Joseph Elfenbein as a late migration theory of saying that Brahuis came to Northwest region late, which I have myself questioned in both my contributions to Mountain Publishing Theory and Oxford University's chapter on Dravidian languages. And thanks, Nazir Bhai, for quoting me there. But I agree with some of his arguments, but I think his the demonstration of plural suffix "gal" appearing in Indo-Iranian languages, that's a new information to me, and I find fascinating. So I think we need some of those things that we need to look into. But but as we move, some of his bold theories, I would say, is one of them is Munda connection that he constantly keeps referring to. As far as I know there is zero archaeological or genetic evidence, especially with the latest genetic data that is exploding in the area. It doesn't support presence of Austroasiatic or Munda people that far west. So I would like him to take a critical look on those things. So some of the place names, I think some of them could be just a coincidence, and some of them could be just aerial features that are already propounded by several people like Emano Masika and even recently by Anvita Madam. So I would like him to look. Also, I think his theory about Brahmi and Brahui being related, I find that a little far-fetched. And then he really leans on out of Africa connection. To me, I think that might still require a critical scrutiny and deeper thinking. That's my general take on it. But thanks a lot for I think making all of us get a deeper look into Brahui. And as a native speaker, we really do not know much about Brahui, so we will really look towards you for more deeper analysis and for other deeper connections. Thank you.
Professor Anvita, can you please give your remarks?
Vanakkam. Thank you, Dr. Zakir Nasir. Brahui, you gave a very eloquent speech,
Thanks, madam.
Especially on this topic, which is still very mysterious, because not much research has been done, but you have done phenomenal amount of research on Brahui language, literature, culture, civilization, migration. So it's very revealing and it's very encompassing, very enriching, I must say. But your paper, because the time is short, I will not go at length asking several questions. Your paper raises many questions, and of course there is never a last line, or there is never a one answer that we can give to the questions that arise. But the most important that I was attracted to was that you are saying that, and you agree with McAlpin, that when he says that the source of this language is Elamite. If that is so, and since you say there is a possibility, you do say in your paper that there is a possibility that with the original language of Brahui speakers was Elamite. But then later on, you also say that, and you also show the figure where the Brahui is separated from Proto-Dravidian, the very first. So Brahui was the very independent of the other North Dravidian languages like Kuduk and Malto, and of course the other South Dravidian and Central Dravidian languages which are spoken in India. But Brahui seems to be the first branch that separated out from Proto-Dravidian. So hence you can say one of the oldest. So now these two theories sort of contradict each other. That's what I find, because in the second theory, you are still deriving Brahui from the Proto-Dravidian. But if you agree with McAlpin, then the Brahui language has derived or has been related to Elamite. So don't you think there's a contradiction between the two? Or you think we should interpret in a way we cannot that in a way that there is a contact. You see, contact is always a very important aspect in establishing the historical relationship between any two languages across geographical boundaries. And the contact comes with migration. So this is a very important factor. So I would be very happy if you could ponder over this historical question, whether Brahui should be claimed to be Elamite origin or it should be claimed from Proto-Dravidian, which may be separated from Elamite. That was my main question. My second, there was no question, but very interesting observation, the cave painting of bulls that you show. I was very intrigued because I have worked on Toda quite a lot, and I have lived among Todas, and I realized that the bulls that of the cave painting, the pictures are very similar to the buffaloes that the Todas worship. You know, the buffaloes of Todas can be recognized from other buffaloes by their horn. Their horns are curved, and in your photographs, the bull's horns are so curved that I was immediately I thought this was a Toda picture. And they're so separate, and the two communities are far apart. And so I just wanted, this is an observation, that did you ever feel that there was some kind of a similarity, and can we deduct and can we decipher something more than what you are just seeing in this picture? That's all I have for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kolichala and Dr. Abby. And we will now move to the question and answer moderation. And it is going to be conducted by Mr. Mani Manivarnan, who is also a fellow, a person in our study group. And there is also going to be a translation into Hindi, and it's going to be done by Mrs. Swarna, just for the convenience of the speaker and for better understanding. So I call upon Mr. Mani Manivarnan to come and moderate the question and answer session. And only the questions that have been typed in the chat box will be answered. Thank you.
Baba, if you want, I can translate my question in Hindi too.
Okay.
If you want.
No, like we can take your questions first. If you can tell it in Hindi, that would be better, so that Dr. Nasir can answer it immediately.
ओके मैं ये कह रही थी कि आपने अपने पेपर में ये कहा है कि जो ब्राहुई भाषा है वो एलामाइट से ही निकली है, और आप इस बात को मानते हैं मैकाल्पिन की कि द्रविडियन भाषाएं या ब्राहुई खास तौर से एलामाइट लैंग्वेज है. आप इस बात को मानते हैं क्योंकि आपने लिखा है इट इज पॉसिबल दैट दिस वाज द ओरिजिनल लैंग्वेज ऑफ ब्राहुई स्पीकर्स, दैट इज एलामाइट. तो अगर एलामाइट ब्राहुई की जैसे कहते स्रोत लैंग्वेज है, उसकी ओरिजिन है, तो फिर आप इस बात को कैसे मानेंगे कि प्रोटो द्रविडियन जब हम उसकी गणना करते हैं तो सबसे पहला आप कहते हैं कि सबसे पहले ब्राहुई अलग हुई वहाँ से प्रोटो द्रविडियन से, और बाकी भाषाएं जैसे नॉर्थ द्रविडियन है, कुडुख माल्तो है, या साउथ द्रविडियन है, बाकी भाषाएं तमिल तेलुगु कन्नड़ वगैरह ये बाद में आई. तो एक तरफ तो आप ये कह रहे हैं कि प्रोटो द्रविडियन से ब्राहुई सबसे पहले निकली, तो प्रोटो द्रविडियन एक अपने आप में एक अलग भाषा परिवार है. दूसरी तरफ आप ये भी मानते हैं मैकाल्पिन की ब्राहुई एलामाइट से निकली। तो मेरा पहला सवाल ये था कि क्या ये आप मान, इनमें आपको कोई विरोधाभास नहीं लगता, आपको कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन नहीं लग रहा इन दो दो थेरीज में? और लग रहा है तो उसका समाधान कैसे होगा, उसका कैसे करेंगे आप सोल्यूशन?
मेहरबानी मेहरबानी मैडम। दरअसल बात यह है कि एलामाइट जुबान जो है ना, वो खुद प्रोटो ड्राविडियन की एक ब्रांच है। सारे
ये
इस
मैकाल्पिन
इलाके
का
के
कहना है।
अंदर
हाँ,
नहीं, अब मैं कल्पना को छोड़ दे ना, जो मेरा जो ख्याल है, आइडिया है, वो मैं क्योंकि बहुत से मेरा मैं कल्पना से बाकायदा रब्ता था। मैंने खुद उनसे इत्तेफाक भी किया और उनसे मतलब तजाद भी किया कि आप इस बारे में गलत भी हैं। तो उन्होंने मेरी बात को तस्लीम भी किया, मगर वो अचानक उनकी डेथ हो गई, तो फिर राब्ता मुनक़ता हो गया। तो मैंने उनको कहा कि ठीक है, ब्राह्वी जो है ना एलामाइट जुबान बोलते थे, मगर एलामाइट जो जुबान है वो खुद प्रोटो द्राविड़ी है। जब ये सारे इलाके के अंदर ईरान, अफगानिस्तान, पाकिस्तान, हिंदुस्तान या श्रीलंका में ये सारा इलाका उस वक्त प्रोटो ऑस्ट्रोनेशियन और प्रोटो द्राविड़ी लोगों का मुख्तलिफ इलाकों में बसते थे, और हर इलाके की अपनी जो है प्रोटो द्राविड़ी जुबानों की वैरायटी थी। तो उसमें से एक वैरायटी प्रोटो अलामाइट थी। वो जो बनते जहाँ रहते थे जागरूस में, तो वो मुख्तसर थे। उनसे जो दूसरे चले गए वो मौजूदा ब्राह्वी माउंटेन रेंज में चले गए। तो उसी वजह से इनका जो आपस में ताल्लुक जो है वो खत्म हो गया। ब्राह्वी ने अपनी पूरी जो है पुरानी जो भाषा थी या लिंग्विस्टिक पोजीशन ऐसी थी, वो अपनी बरकरार रखी। और एलामाइट जो है अखमीने तक चलते चलते खुद ही जो अपनी जुबान खोजी उन लोगों ने। उनमें से इतना असर हुआ कि वो अभी सिर्फ वो सारे दुनिया के अंदर जुबान से सिर्फ ब्राह्वी और द्राविड़ी जुबानों से लिसान रिश्ता रखता है, बाकी किसी से नहीं है। ये अलग बात है कि ब्राह्वी एलामाइट एक ही थे, प्रोटो द्राविड़ी जुबानों की शाख थे। एलामाइट अलग हुए और ब्राह्वी उनसे अलग हुए। ये कदीम दौर का तकरीबन 8, 9, 10 हज़ार साल का जो बीच में आसी या ईसाई जो नस्ल था उस दौरान में ये वाक्य रुनुमा हुआ मेरे ख्याल में।
ठीक।
बाकी सब जो है ना वो आपस में प्रोटो द्राविड़ी से निकली है।
अच्छा, और वो केव पेंटिंग
Madam,
के बारे
maybe
में
we
आपका
will go
क्या
in
ख्याल है?
we have many more questions. Mr. Mani Iyer had documented it, so we'll go in the order. Can we?
And my other observation, did you notice this painting of bull horns?
Yeah, we have that question in the list. We'll ask it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have many other questions from other participants as well. Mani Iyer,
Sure.
can you please take over?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bama. Thank you to Dr. Subhatra. We have a lot of questions, and I think originally we planned on having 20 minutes or so for Q&A, but we're running short on time, so we will go as long as Bama permits, 10, 15 minutes. So I'm going to go through the questions in some sequence that interested me. If the same person's question repeats, it is not any bias. It is just that it appealed to me. That's all. So blame me on it. And we will try to translate the questions into Hindi. But Dr. Nazir, please respond in English because most of us do not understand Hindi. So the interpretation is for you to comprehend what is being asked, but please answer in English, please. So with
But
that
we have
said,
Swarna.
let me.
Yeah.
Swarna again. Yeah.
Yeah, I can try my best, sir. I think he was probably comfortable in
Okay.
Hindi is what he mentioned. We can try, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's go with the question. So can you see this?
Loading. Yeah, I can
Yes.
see it.
Yeah. What was the earliest script used to write Brahui? When was it first written? What is its current script? Bama.
Sir,
Swarna?
यस सर। सर जो बाहुई भाषा को लिखने के लिए जो लिपि यूज किया था, वो सबसे पहला लिपि कौन सा था? और ओह सॉरी सर, आई थिंक इट, हाँ, और पहली बार कब लिखाया गया था, और अभी कैसे है सर वो लिपि जिसमें लिखा जाता है?
ये कि ब्राह्मी इस वक्त सारी जो द्राविड़ी जुबानें हैं उसमें लिखी जाती है, और ब्राह्मी जो है वो इंडस सिविलाइजेशन की जुबान के सिविलाइजेशन से पैदा हुई है जुबान। तो जो शुरू में ब्राह्मी लिखी जाती थी वो ब्राह्मी में या ब्राह्वी उसका नाम है। ये वाह और बे का फोनेटिक चेंज है, असल में ये ब्राह्वी रस्म हो, जिसे कुछ लोगों ने या न समझ कर उसे ब्राह्मी का नाम दिया है। अरबों के दौर में अरबी रस्म खत्म लिखी जाती थी। उसके बाद फिर हिंदुओं के दौर में गुजराती या मुख्तलिफ जो जुबानें थी वो उसमें लिखी जाती थी। और ब्राह्वी का जो रस्म खत है तकरीबन 1293 में वो नस्तली के फारसी और अरबी इन दोनों के इम्तिया से में लिखी जाने लगी थी।
अच्छा।
पहली जो स्क्रिप्ट थी यानी वो ब्राह्वी थी आईसी में। उसके बाद यूनानी जुबान में लिखी गई। अरबों के दौर मुख्तलिफ जबानों के अंदर मुख्तलिफ उसके रस्म खत चेंज होते गए, जुबान वही थी, ये मुख्तलिफ जो जुबानें थी उसमें चेंज होते गए। अभी जो है फारसी रस्म खत उर्दू में लिखी जाती है।
जी, धन्यवाद. So I think as he mentioned, I think Suresh sir has also put on chat. So I think earlier he says it started with Brahmi, and then later he says it was also written in Gujarati, but I think post 1230s or 1200s, it was Parsi and Arabic. I think that right now it's Arabic script that's used.
Okay. All right, thank you. What are the oldest poems in Brahui that are available? What was the main themes in them?
सर ब्राह्मी भाषा में उपलब्ध सबसे पुरानी कविताएं कोई है? और अगर उनमें से मुख्य विषय क्या था, किसके थीम पर वो बेस था सर?
Nasir Aya, if you can answer in English, all of us can understand it in one go. Okay.
ब्राह्मी में सबसे ज्यादा जो पोइम्स हैं वो फोकलोर कहलाती है। अब इनके हवाले से कोई नहीं कह सकता कि कितना साल यानी कितने हजार साल का कदीम है ये। सिर्फ आप उसमें यह है कि वतन की जो मोहब्बत है या लोगों के साथ मोहब्बत है, अपने जो हीरोज हैं या जंगजू हैं उनकी जो है ना तौसीफ की जाती है। उनके हवाले से उसमें ये बातें शामिल हैं। यहाँ पे नौजवानों के हवाले से, वतन के हवाले से या फितरत के हवाले से, इनके इलाका पहाड़ी से पहाड़ों के हवाले से है, जो दिलेर इंसान है उनके हवाले से है, मुख्तलिफ जंगों में जो लोग शहीद हुए उनके हवाले से है।
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू. So he says it was mostly folklore. The themes were around love, hero worship. He says Naujawan, which is probably around youngsters, and also themes around mountains and probably the ecosystem and culture around there.
Looks like it's also Ana Nura and Purna Nura.
Exactly.
Yes. Right.
Yes. Dhanyawad, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Raj had this question very fascinating.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can go for it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
सर हम यहाँ थोड़े आजकल का जो वर्ड्स है लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल व्हाट इज योर नेम, सो आज हम आपके भाषा में ये सुनना चाहते हैं। सो मे बी पहला जो बोल रहा है कि व्हाट इज योर नेम, आप अपने लैंग्वेज में बोलिएगा, फिर जो भी 4 लाइन है अगर बोलेंगे तो सबको अच्छा लगेगा जी.
कनापिन नजीर अहमद. What is your name? Napin Ante. Napin Ante. Number 2, are you doing well? E Bhaz Joanot. E Bhaz Joanot. Number 3, what did you eat for lunch? E, de takana erakuneva. What is your favorite food? Kana kere joininga varak bedir kare o khadi hai. E ne to pyar keva.
Okay, thank you.
धन्यवाद
Thank you,
सर.
sir. Go ahead, Swarna.
या सर, आज के जो ब्राहुई लोग बात करते हैं और द्रविडियंस हैं, उनके लाइक उन दोनों को कुछ सिमिलैरिटीज है सर, आप जो देखते हो? सामान्यता है, जैसे कि कौन से भगवान को पूजा करते हैं, पाठ करते हैं, या फेस्टिवल्स होते हैं, उसमें आप कुछ सिमिलैरिटी देखते हो?
दरअसल बात यह है कि ब्राह्वी इस वक्त सब मुसलमान हैं, तो उसी वजह से उनका जो मजहबी नुक्ते निगाह है, उठना बैठना है, वो सब इस्लामी हवाले से है। रहा सवाल यह है कि उनके अपने इलाके के अंदर कदीम दौर से काली माता के मंदिर मौजूद थे। इससे ये बात जाहिर होता है कि अरब इस्लाम से पहले वो इसी मजहब के पुजारी थे, इसी मजहब से ताल्लुक रखते थे। अब मुसलमान हो गए, अब उनकी आपस में मजहबी सिमिलरिटी कोई नहीं है। रहा सवाल ये कि कल्चर में रहने में, उठने बैठने में, और जो फितरत है, पहाड़ हैं, जड़ी बूटियां हैं, या जो इलाज के तरीके हैं, मेडिसिन है, या जैसे आमतौर गाड शीप्स हैं, या दूसरी चीजें हैं जो पालते हैं, बेल हैं, तो उसमें तकरीबन एक जैसे हैं ये सब भाई।
जी. So he says that the current people who speak Brahui are mostly Muslims, thereby which changes a lot of culture around how they are presently doing religion or worshipping methods and festivals. However, he also points out that there was a Kali Amman, a Kali Mata temple in those areas, which probably says how it could have been a culture that was earlier, but right now people don't follow. But he says that like things like the way they work with cows or sheep or medicines, all those things he says culturally there are similarities in which the Dravidians also work. But in general, you can't see it much because of the change of religion.
All right, thank you. Next question.
सर, आज के ब्राहुई भाषा और गोंदी भाषा में जो अभी इंडिया में बोलते हैं, उसके सिमिलैरिटी और रिलेशनशिप क्या है सर? सामान्यता है या कुछ कनेक्शन है इन दोनों में?
बिल्कुल इनमें कनेक्शन बहुत है, क्योंकि ये आयुषी के अंदर ही जबान बोली जाती थी। ब्राहुई बे और गोंडी गोरखमाल तो ये सब आपस में यानी एक दूसरे के करीब थे। तो उसी वजह से गोंडी और ब्राहुई के जो लिंग्विस्टिक जो है सबसे ज्यादा ताल्लुक को इससे करीब है, बहैसियत दूसरी जुबानों से जो दूर है ब्राहुई से। अच्छा, गोंडी सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि गोंडी के एक दो कबीले या कास्टिस के नाम अब गोंडी के नाम से गोंडी, गोंड के नाम से ब्राह्मी बोलने वालों में मौजूद हैं।
ठीक है सर, धन्यवाद. So he says there is definitely a big relationship between them. He says it was probably in the IVC region that the connection happens, and he specifically said that even right now, the caste names, if I'm not wrong, from Gondi are very much available in some of the caste names in the Brahui tribes as well.
All right, thank you. By the way, the question is exactly as was written. I don't know if all these scholars agree that Gondi is indeed Proto-Dravidian, but that's the question. So let's go on to the next one. Is there a Swadesh list comparing Brahui with other Dravidian languages?
सर, कोई स्वदेश का लिस्ट है जो ब्राहुई और दूसरे द्रविडियन लैंग्वेज का जो संबंध या कंपैरिजन करता है?
स्वदेश का मतलब क्या है?
What does Swadesh list mean?
Okay, let's move on to the one that gets very technical. Let's move on to
Okay.
the one.
सर हम
Mhm.
अगले प्रश्न में जाएंगे क्योंकि टाइम लगेगा।
Okay.
हाँ
Okay.
सर ये हमारे ब्राहुई के लोग पूर्वजों का वर्शिप करते हैं सर, जो अपने पूर्वजों का।
जी जी बिल्कुल वो करते हैं। यानी कदीम जो लोग मर गए हैं उनके कब्रों पे जाते हैं, उनके लिए मजहबी त्योहार मनाते हैं, उनको याद करते हैं, उनके हवाले से लोग शायरी करते हैं, उनके उनके हवाले से जो किस्से हैं वो बताते हैं। ये
जी
हमारे यहाँ आम बात है बिल्कुल। ये बराही में तो एक आम चीज है कल्चर का।
जी he says it's very common that Brahui people worship ancestors. They go to their qabr, which is probably their place where they have been cremated, or a grave. They have also festivals around it. They also have poetry and like where they really like praise their ancestors. So it's a very, very normal thing for them to do ancestral worship.
All right. Thanks.
Um,
Go ahead.
yes, sir. So, सर आपने कोई तमिल स्कॉलर्स के साथ आपने रिसर्च का काम किया है, जांच जैसे आपके वर्क में?
जी ये मैं तो द्रविड़ लिंग्विस्टिक एसोसिएशन का मेंबर भी हूँ, और इसके साथ श्री कुमार से मेरा ताल्लुक है, इसके साथ विद्याचालिम सुब्रमण्यम के साथ मेरा ताल्लुक है, सुरेश कोलिचला जो जितने भी तकरीबन है। अच्छा, मुजीबुर रहमान जिन्होंने बराही में तामिल में किताब लिखी है बराही जुबान के हवाले से, उजमलाई रावी या कुछ दूसरे भी लोग हैं तामिलों के साथ जो स्कॉलर है, उनके साथ मेरा बाकायदा रोजाना व्हाट्सएप के हवाले से ताल्लुक है। वो मुझसे पूछते हैं, मैं उससे पूछता हूँ, एक दूसरे सवालात भी करते हैं, ख्यालात के शेयर भी करते हैं।
जी जी sir. So he says yes, he said he's a part of the, if I'm not wrong, Dravidian Language Association. He also has worked with, I think sir is here, Suresh Kalshe sir, and he said, oh my god, I can't, Sri Kumaran sir, but
Kumar Subramaniam.
Kumar Subramaniam sir, and many more. He's in touch with them in WhatsApp. They share each other's findings, so he's definitely in touch with them.
Okay, fantastic.
Sir,
what would be the
yeah,
go ahead.
सर मांडाई का जो शहर आपने बोला था उसका मीनिंग क्या है सर, लाइक उसका अर्थ क्या है?
ये मंदाई जो है ना एक
मंदाई,
कबीला है।
सॉरी,
मंदाई कबीला है, कबीला भी है और सिटी भी है। अब ये कि जो सिटी है वो मंडा जो कबीला था उनके नाम पे कदीम शहर, कभी जो है कभी लोग जब माइग्रेट करके गए मगर वो शहर मौजूद था। तो ये तकरीबन बहुत से ऐसे शहर हैं जो तकरीबन मंडा कबीला जो बोलने वाले एसोसिएटेड थे उनके हवाले से मशहूर है। कोलपुर है, मंडाई है, और दूसरे कुछ इलाके हैं जो मंडा कौम के हवाले से हैं। उसी हवाले से कुछ कबीलों के नाम पे मंदाई इसी हवाले से मशहूर है। अब ये नहीं कह सकते या कह सकते हैं कि भाई ये वही लोग हैं या उनके डिसेंडेंट्स हैं या वही सिलसिला अभी तक चलता आ रहा है।
तो उसका कोई अर्थ नहीं है सर, वो मंदाई का जो पूरा नाम, लाइक
ये असल है मंद है। मंद की आई जो है वो जैसे हिंदुस्तान से हिंदुस्तानी, यानी मंद से मंदाई जो है ना, यानी मंदा लोग जो है या मंदा के रहने वाले हैं या मंदाई लोग हैं। जैसे हिंदुस्तान से हिंदुस्तानी, पाकिस्तान से पाकिस्तानी, ईरान से ईरानी, ये जो है ना किस्म एडजेक्टिव है ये।
अच्छा, I am trying my best what he mentioned, but I think what he said, it's more of like how we name people according to like countries. So if it's Pakistan, we say Pakistani. So Mandai is like people who stayed in Mandai. It's more of that. But from what I understood, he did not give us a specific literal meaning of the town.
Okay, so I was hoping that it either means head or herd, but okay, so there is no such connection. Let's move on to the next one.
Maniaya, time check.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So this is probably we can wrap up with the 10th question.
No, how many more you have? Maybe you can
that's okay.
we
probably have 5 more, but each of them will take long
Okay.
time. So
The
we
other
can probably
questions
wrap
we
up with this one.
okay, please.
Yeah, we can send it to him and then he can respond in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap up with this one. Sundar
So
Cholan's question.
is it
Go.
it's a little longer. I'm just trying to read this.
Okay.
Or maybe if there's shorter question after this.
Okay, let's see. Is this better?
Yes, sir.
Or
I'm
let's
just
move
reading.
on to this one. Okay. Can you attribute or
okay.
associate a social or cultural practice or language pattern or structure that directly links Brahui and Tamil?
सर अभी ब्राहुई और तमिल और द्रविडियन लैंग्वेज को के बीच में कोई स्पेसिफिक पैटर्न आपने देखा है जो संस्कृति देखकर या लोगों का कल्चरल प्रैक्टिस में देखकर कुछ पैटर्न आपको बहुत स्पेसिफिकली कनेक्शन दिखता है आपको?
कनेक्शन जो है एक तो लिंग्विस्टिक है
लिंग्विस्टिक
और दूसरा कल्चरल भी है
Culture.
और दूसरा जो है ना जो वहाँ ज्यादा से ज्यादा तामिल में होता है कि बड़े बड़े जो जंगजू लोग हैं बहादुर उनके लिए शायरी की जाती है तो ये सिस्टम जो है ना ब्राज़ील में भी है।
सर फिर से कहिए, मुझे वो समझ में नहीं आया। कौन सा प्रैक्टिस बोला आपने?
तो एक तो लिंग्विस्टिकली बहुत बड़ा दोनों में कनेक्शन रिलेशनशिप है
जी।
दूसरा कल्चरली भी है
हाँ।
और तीसरा ये है कि तामिलों में यानी जो अपने जो बहुत बड़े बड़े बहादुर लोग हैं उनके ऊपर शायरी की जाती है कदीम तौर से।
हाँ।
तो ब्राज़ील में यही सिलसिला अब भी बाकी है।
जी okay. I think he mentions linguistically, but I think a specific example he said is like a hero worship. He says that there were specific ways where hero worships and like the songs about that is something he sees a big cultural connection from the Tamil and the Brahui culture. Yeah.
Okay. I have one other question. I think that short
sir.
one he can probably answer.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. This is easy.
Are there Brahui books translated in English? 1, 2. Where could we buy your books? Are they
Okay.
available in Amazon?
सर अभी ब्राहुई के पुस्तकें अंग्रेजी में आप ट्रांसलेट अनुवादित हुआ है और अगर हम आपका बुक खरीदना चाहते हैं तो कहाँ खरीद सकते हैं? ये दोनों क्वेश्चन सर।
मेरा या आम ब्राह्मी जुबान का?
जो भी है सर, अगर आपका है तो बहुत अच्छा होगा, लेकिन जनरली अगर लोगों को ब्राहुई का पुस्तक पढ़ना है, अगर वो इंग्लिश में अवेलेबल है अंग्रेजी में, तो हम जानना चाहते हैं कि कैसे। हाँ।
अंग्रेजी में तो लिंकम कंपनी की तरफ से MS आंद्रोनोव के 2-3 किताबें शाये हो चुकी हैं। इंडिया से मुजीबुर रहमान ने तमिल जुबान में किताब लिखी है। उसके साथ बाकी नेट पे जो है ना मौजूद है किताब का कहीं से आप डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं। मुख्तलिफ वेबसाइट्स हैं, archive.com है या और दूसरे जो वेबसाइट्स हैं वहाँ पे ब्राह्मी के हवाले से बहुत कुछ मौजूद है।
सर वो तमिल ऑथर उनका नाम आपने क्या बोला था?
मुजीबुर रहमान।
Okay, sir.
मुजीबुर रहमान.
So he says there are books in English, also in Tamil, Mujibur Rahman, and then he also says it's available in archive.net, and if I'm not wrong, he said something around LinkedIn publication or something, but maybe we can check with him. But he says it's available for people which is accessible. Yes.
Okay. I think we'll wrap up with this one. And I would like to make sure that all the questions in the chat box are captured somewhere. Then we can get the answers on the WhatsApp group from Dr. Nazir. So that was that. Thank you, Dr. Nazir. You've been most kind. Thank you.
बहुत शुक्रिया सर, आपने हमारे सवालों का जवाब दिया। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
आप लोगों का बहुत शुक्रिया कि आपने मुझे इज्जत दी, शरफ दी। आप लोगों की बड़ी बड़ी मेहरबानी।
He's thankful.
And thank you, Swarna.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you,
Swarna,
for
Mani,
making it. Okay, all right. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you, Mani sir. And Swarna, you were a lifesaver. Seriously.
Thank you, madam.
I could follow. I can follow Hindi. So your interpretation and translation was actually apt, and instantly doing it It was an amazing job. Thank you, Swarna. And Mani sir,
Subhadra was
thank
scoring you.
Yeah. And now we are over to our dear Dr. Bama, who's actually the fire beneath our wings in our fire beneath our wings of this study group. And thank you so much, Bama, for all the efforts you have taken in bringing this beautiful talk session today to come into happening. Thank you so much. And Bama will now offer the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Amma, do you want to say anything?
Very good. I understood a very little Hindi, but translation was good, and the procedure was good, and the talk was excellent. And thanks for all the participants. And thank you, Bama.
Thank you.
Vanakamma, vanakamma.
Welcome.
So let's formally conclude. So it's an honor for me to deliver this vote of thanks. We are incredibly grateful to Dr. Nasir for taking us through the journey of the Brahui language and its connections to Tamil. Your elaborate speech and the patience with which you had handled the questions were truly appreciated. Thank you, Aya. A big thank you to Professor Anvita and Mr. Suresh for adding their valuable inputs. I also want to extend my sincere thanks to our mentors, Harasachila Aya, Raj Muttarasan Aya, and Mani Manivannan Aya. This program would not have been possible without your leadership and constant encouragement. And thank you, all three of you. Success is always a team achievement. I would like to thank Ms. Sridevi for this beautiful flyer design, Ms. Rajeshwari for getting the word out to so many people through the social media. We also thank Mr. Nagaraj for his hard work behind the scenes with our YouTube content. He will be uploading it very soon. Thank you, three of you. And the Q&A session was quite engaging with Swarna's translation. So we are very grateful to her for facilitating this translation. Thank you, Swarna. And our wonderful host, Subhadra, has been a very gracious and capable host in executing this program. Thank you, Subhadra. To our audience, thank you for your time, your curiosity, and your cooperation. It is your enthusiasm which makes this program worth organizing. And we have our next event on April 18th onwards. We have a reading forum. The book that is going to be read is Journey of a Civilization, Indus to Vaigai, written by Thiru R. Balakrishnan. So we all hope to see you there in the reading forum. Thank you all once again. Have a good day.
Madam.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.